get it.
Mbijan aganya.
Albaka.
Mbaka important.
Yo, nga transfer la sto.
Ya transfer la.
Ha, code nyinji.
Okay. Korsa. Nsila ID soto.
Sa soto. Sorry. I get it.
Mbijan bro.
Albaka.
Mbaka.
Bara alla service o tariaka. Mbare ki janna nun kunu bara tariaka.
Jannom yona forest de bureau. Gambia tonkon na no mbari ya bere. Birim koyna fo kato.
Bari si kodo kino kato nim fo bolong blabe to.
56 branches mola soto Gambia jang.
Ha?
Gambia kono anin Gambia bantala bankol. Nka kodo kiya bere to. Kodo sifa fo falindiro fo nyaadi lafta memmen na kodi to poto nin kodi maraw. Jannam number 1 di nyonta. Andum fana nata anoda enterprise sotale. Wolam nyindi ko domorol fana kol fana be firale de dadi manin domorol ni fana beteat. Gambia dawda yalo ngam fa kendol sotale je.
Wo moyo diat.
Apelenta
ni wo ka ni lafta nyelen kendol e bina.
Yalo bu kanyi la ko la baraka ba.
Yalo ndel chosano lo.
Abaraka.
Him that the last time he sent the money, it was not enough to buy all the provisions.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to tell him.
Are you guys talking about money transfer to buy provisions?
Yes.
But
don't you know about Baluwo?
Baluwo? What is Baluwo?
Baluwo is a service that your son can use to send provisions directly to you guys from the shop. And you don't have to worry about the exchange rate.
Tell me how Baluwo works.
It's very simple.
Just log on to baluwo.com and shop, or download the app on your phone. You can shop on the website or using the app to buy online basic products for your family and friends. With Baluwo, you decide what your money is spent on. Your money, your choice. Buy online products for your family and friends in the Gambia, Senegal, Nigeria or Mali. Baluwo, better than sending money.
For the first time in the history of the Gambia, Gambia Printing Publishing Corporation proudly introduces the Biliomatic exercise book printing machine. The machine has the capacity to print more than 20,000 books per hour. Yes, 20,000 books per hour. It also prints magazines, newspapers, calendars, flyers, normal books and all kinds of printed documents plus items at affordable prices. With the Biliomatic printing machine, GPPC can now render high quality and non-size restricted printing service supply across the sub-region. Rush now and partner with GPPC for all your public and private printing service needs. Print with us today and you'd be offered highly professional, reliable and efficient service delivery by our team of experts. The Gambia Printing and Publishing Corporation is here to meet all demands and is reliable at all times. For more info, contact us on 437-4493 or 437-4402. GPPC is Gambian and it's yours.
Soto manding na pare nyumba. Ali manna sikula. Na kibaro na soto kabonna banto. Itole mi itande na linga minti invoice bala mangi kino. Yamra man filo soto alla jogoba. Hani mon filo soto kandu silula kemo. Nkata ngolo bondi je ka pombe withholding tax. Yeah, withholding mu. Kabre mu mala ko lewdal. Mune fo mu wati. Hey, yale tembe me pole. Ila boss man na sai al benda ko be jola. Sai.
Withholding tax. Coming aya fonye nyami wala mnamote membe larin contract jolta kabo contractor la jolto ika do kuel menke anin ika safari to mix supply abe wol kono technical wala consultancy services sidula ke modo sidula tak ika wala bondi Gambia dingol tato anin sidula tanelu wala ka bo safari la tato mun yalo ko wol make Gambia dingote mi yeta do ko wala ika fo mi contracti wala nyanda kanyi namo jo taka Gambia office bunda to mun yalo ko wala be mararing na namo la ko nyala andu joro a nyanda kera karo men ya kuntu ka boyle joto wala karo men be wodo man janning ala titan dilo de timman
sa mun de la na faade wo
ila na faamu min di wala min di ko
mais certificate le dire la mi alon ko ni bita jiade ibo wala sambara nyola
mu nekk da sibla tam ñi na le min bonen na imposo
wasi la tango wala be bole ile ko do inyata kamu jona modo
ye so akamuna o sibla tam ñi mun de la advance na mu jolde
bo wala nyama
ba ko wajanta ka ñim fonte ndul be ngalo ne ko bankola jurwana la ñaruta sunni banku di wala na mu jolda
ana wato wala
ñing kibaro potanali e Gambia Revenue Authority le nimmil lafta kuma koyo sotola ila namoto ika famie withholding tax akata ye futa GRA la bundato min sutiya tela Gambia Revenue Authority ibe namu kani wala bankola nyato tale GRA bankola namu nyana jola tukare kana nyina.
Hello and welcome to the brunch on Kerr Fatou Live. I'm Lamin Coma. This is our look at current affairs in the Gambia over the last 7 days. Now, the local government elections is now history, but we will look into the future as to how the two sides can accommodate each other, whose power stops where, and what the future will look like in the 8 area councils in the country, plus other issues surrounding the governance and administration of area councils. Senegal is in turmoil. Yesterday, it's been reported that 10 people have died since a 2-year sentence was passed on opposition leader Ousmane Sonko. What is just happening in the neighborhood and what implications does it have for the Gambia? These two topics we'll explore in this edition. And with me in the studio to do just that, my far right over there is Demba Jawo. He's a veteran journalist, Minister of Information, and journalist who worked in Senegal for close to 10 years. And he also writes and comments on local government and other issues. Next to him is Lamin Coma. Lamin Coma is a local government decentralization expert, a former director of lands, and now a retired consultant, retired civil servant, and now consultant. Lamin, welcome to the program, Mr. Coma.
Thank you.
And next to him is Dr. Sedat Jobe. He was a diplomat, former foreign minister in the Gambia, who was also a lecturer at the University of the Gambia. He also worked in the United Nations in New York and other places. So he is with us in the studio to explore these topics that have been discussed. And if I come now, much generations later, I have Marr Nyang, an active young man who heads the very active NGO, or rather civic society organization called Gambia Participates. Marr Nyang, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Good. Let's go straight to the local government elections. We had 8 area councils. 4 of them went to the opposition United Democratic Party, and 4 others to the governing National People's Party. But of course, the big towns and municipalities in Banjul, Kanifing, Brikama, and Mansakonko went to the opposition. So the oppositions are now having bragging rights that they have won the most populated and most important municipalities or towns in the country. They said they have now driven the governing National People's Party to a party of the provinces. We will explore what our expectations were and how did the election itself pan out and what it means now for the Gambia. Demba Ali Jawo, what are your reflections? Were you expecting, we were here a day before, a week before the elections actually, when Sepras, the election pollsters, predicted exactly that, it's going to be like what has happened. What's your own reflections?
Thank you. Well, actually, I wasn't surprised about the results. Maybe the only place that surprised me was Kerr. I thought the proposal were going to take Kerr as well, but it didn't happen that way. So, if you look at the poll that were issued by Cyprus, definitely they were near accurate in their prediction. I think it's a good thing that we have now accurate polling in this country as far as elections are concerned. So I think people should encourage Cyprus in what they are doing. So I definitely wasn't surprised with the results, and well, I think that's it.
What do you think were the issues that could have influenced the results, the outcome of the result? For example, the NPP, not gaining any grounds in the most populated areas. Is that because the electorate is more sophisticated there, or they tend to know the issues better than in the hinterland where they have done well?
Well, I think that is an important factor, the sophistication of the electorate in these areas that we are talking about. That's the Greater Banjul area and the West Coast, for instance. The people there are definitely much more sophisticated as far as politics is concerned, than those up country. And again, if you observe that during the campaign, President Barrow actually campaigned in only those, in these areas that the opposition have won. So you wonder what has gone wrong. With all the vigorous campaign, for the first time that I can remember, a head of state being so much involved in local government elections, and yet, it didn't go his way. So definitely, I think the NPP needs to sit down, analyze the results, and find out what has gone wrong. But definitely something has gone wrong as far as the NPP is concerned, because the very fact that in December 2021, the presidential elections, Barrow had a landslide. He defeated Dabo and all the other candidates in virtually all the administrative areas, including the Greater Banjul area. But suddenly the subsequent elections, that is the National Assembly, local councillor elections, as well as the mayoral elections, his party performed so badly. So you wonder, something definitely must have gone wrong, and I think they need to sit down to analyze their own strategy.
The NPP said the people just didn't come out to vote, even though, like you said, President Barrow himself had to go on the ground to persuade his supporters to vote for him, for his candidates, massively as they did in December when he won the landslide. But many observers, including myself, want to believe that the absenteeism, the great absenteeism, may have to do with the fact that we probably have a lot of foreign voters on the register.
Well, that could be a factor. In fact, if you recall, immediately after the elections, I had an article alluding to that a lot of non-Gambians who were actually not qualified to vote in this country were registered, and that they are actually on the voters' roll. It's unfortunate that Dr. Sedat Jobe's party didn't do their homework, because they should have challenged. They were given the opportunity to challenge it at the revising courts, but they didn't do anything. So that was it. And
for me, I think the problem was more than NPP, because all the political parties through the IPC, that's the Inter-Party Committee, were invited to the stakeholders meeting with the IEC, and the issue about attestations by Alkalolu and Sefolu, and in the case of Banjul Mayo, was raised. And all the parties agreed that, okay, if we don't do attestations, many people in Gambia don't have ID cards or passports, so there'll be a lot of people who will be disenfranchised. But it turned out that most of the suspected foreign vote registration came through attestations by Alkalolu and Sefolu or mayors, because it became now a matter of competition. Which party has more powers or more influence to get attestation from the Alkalolu and the Sefolu, and that's what happened. So I cannot believe that 600,000, nearly half of 600,000 Gambians are sitting in this country. They did not bother to vote in the parliamentary election. They did not vote in the local area councils, and they did not vote in the mayor elections. They didn't care that people are going to vote. 600,000 Gambians sitting in the Gambia. Well, for me, I believe they don't live in the Gambia.
No, probably.
Especially the last one. Everybody was involved. President was involved. The opposition were involved. Yet you have 600,000 people sitting here. Don't bother. They did not vote for UDP. They did not vote for DOI. They did not vote for NPP. Well, for me, I believe they don't live here.
Well, that could be an important factor. But the very fact that NPP is claiming that their supporters did not come out to vote, that is, one good reason why they should sit down and look at their strategy. Something is definitely not gone right as far as their strategy is concerned. Because if their
all those who are supposed to vote for them sit at home and they expect only those who vote for the opposition will come out, then, you know, I mean, honestly, I don't think that is I think something needs to be, you know, looked at. And I think the IEC also needs to revise or look at its own, you know, I mean, system, like this attestation and other things, you know, I mean, something.
No, when it comes to attestation, the IEC has no powers. It was amended in 2005. You know, in the beginning, the IEC had the powers to interview claimants. Even if you turn up with a diplomatic passport, the IEC man can say, I believe you are not a Gambian. But when that was amended in 2005 by Jammeh, all what the IEC can do is, if you turn up with an attestation or ID card, they have no powers.
Yeah, but when it comes to electoral laws, you know, the IEC has, they can make suggestions as to how it can be amended. You know, I mean, because as far as elections are concerned, that's the territory of the IEC, definitely. Yeah.
But of course, their independence has been taken away. But let's turn to Mr. Coma. You have been watching local government areas. In fact, in the past, elections are organized by the Ministry of Local Government, I guess. So you must have a lot of experience in election organization and the process that goes through. What's your reflection on this one particularly?
Well, two issues have come up in your discussion with Mr. Jawo. There's one, why the voter turnout is so low.
Yes.
And the excuse given by the NPP that maybe their voters haven't come up.
Yes.
And the other issue, of course, is about foreign voters in the registry. But the third factor is the economic factor, the policy of government. The high-profile campaign that NPP came up with, I think, turned against them. Because I think the opposition was able to use that strategy to make it a national issue. So most of the issues that are being discussed are even not related to local government grassroots issues. What has local government got to do with corruption at the national level? What has local government got to do with fuel prices, the NAVEC prices or whatever? They have nothing to do with it. Right. But because there is this high profile with the president coming out with a whole entourage of people and civil servants, well, the opposition took the strategy and turned it against them. So it became a national issue. What they haven't delivered on you, they haven't delivered you at the national level, how can you deliver at the local level? And the other factor is the NPP was not able to bring up any issues to defend themselves. It was mostly, the way what I observed, was mostly a barrage of criticisms against persons, against the parties and things like that. And then also they had the pretense of laying a lot of foundation stones and things like that, which became so banal to people because, you know.
Interesting point. You were trying to say that, okay, maybe the issues would have remained local government issues, like canvassing, it would be the ballot program of Taliban, or maybe in Brikama they would say the Western Brikama market is not collected. But when the president came, I mean, the matter turned to be a national election now.
Yeah, it came to a higher level.
I see.
And it was a good strategy from the opposition's point of view.
I see.
But the other factor, of course, is the economy. The government has to really look at their policies. And what I've observed is anytime people come with complaints or criticisms, they brush it aside.
Oh, these are opposition.
No. For example, if you say prices are going up, it's global, it's Ukraine. You know, when there is the fuel cost, is global. That was one I found very funny when there was a temporary shortage of fuel. They said there was a weather condition, the tanker was there. I found that very comical. Okay. So they need to look at the economic policies. It's quite true. When there is currently globally there is a lot of difficulty, and when you have a local economy, it's affected by two factors. What the economics will call exogenous factors, external factors, and indigenous, that's the internal factors. The external factors, yes, they tend to give excuses based on that. It's COVID or it's Ukraine, or it's commodity prices have been affected, the supply chain, there are difficulties, and
yes, that
fine is true. But I think most of our problems are internal. They have to look at their policy, how consistent it is with reality. You know, if you look at the last budget session, there was a lot of comments for the first time, a very robust kind of comment from the opposition, that they need to look at the budget properly in terms of expenditure and cut it to size. But like not expanding on the embassies and things like that, on non-essential issues. But they didn't listen. And the economy is nobody's friend. You know, you have to play by the rules, or otherwise it will catch up on you later. And that is what is happening now. You know, they need to look at that. Now, the third factor that you mentioned is about the voter list. So many people are not participating. And there is this complaint, even from the Senegalese MP, that the Senegalese have been registered to come and vote. Exactly. So they need to look at that. If we talk about democracy, it's not a state. It's an issue of act. You have to act on it.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's revise the voter register. It's polluted. It's highly polluted. That's the fact. If there is, and the other thing, the method of registration. Who can register? That's another issue. Because the birth certificate at the station you are talking about, birth certificate is not a question of nationality. It's about where you are born. It's a place of birth.
You know, it's only recently that I know that, in fact, having a birth certificate alone does not make you a citizen. When people raise the issue about stateless people in our country.
So this is what is happening. People tend to interpret generally that a birth certificate means nationality. It is not
automatic.
But then it's mentioned in the electoral thing. You qualify if you have a birth certificate, if you have a citizenship.
I see.
So the birth certificate thing has to be reviewed.
So so it's not just even the attestation, even a birth certificate itself can be abused.
That's the way they look at it. You know, so you can come up with your birth certificate and they interpret it that that's a place of birth. And the other factor with the registration process is the fact that you know, there is this question of diaspora vote.
Yes, that's
right. But it's very funny. I think the Supreme Court based their decision on the fact that if you are a citizen, you can be registered. That's what the law says.
Yes.
So therefore, and the Constitution recognizes dual citizenship.
Yes.
So therefore, those who have dual citizenship can be registered.
Yes.
So I think that's basic. But it's more than that. You go through the electoral laws. I think it's section 13D. It says that you can't register in the voter registration of a foreign country that disqualifies you from registering here. So, so there should be a lot of electoral reform, which has to be done before the next election. And one of them is to sanitize the register. And two, to streamline this registration process in terms of birth certificates and who can register, and also to see how inclusive the diaspora should be.
Let me take you straight to what is now expected of the councils. I mean, in the past, the councils under the UDP, you know, in these local governments, actually it was the UDP who was the ruling party. The NPP were the opposition when it comes to these local councils now. There have been a lot of difficulties in their relationship. Now we have said, even the president said, it's a fresh start. Everybody, should accept the will of the people. But we have seen in Banjul, there have been a row. The politics have just started coming up. What should we look forward now? What should be the central government and the council's role now?
Well, you see, my surprise is why the president takes the council so seriously to come out. They shouldn't have come out this low. This modern day administration is about decentralization. This principle of subsidiarity. You give the government central government plays a very subsidiary role in the management of issues. So where there is competence in the lower levels, you give it to them. It's very normal, so that you become...
No matter which party.
Exactly, so, but the way he was going about it, now it's up to him to revise that kind of attitude, because the way people see it, because perceptions matter. So the way people perceive him is that he doesn't like local governments that are under opposition. And it doesn't matter, they serve everybody. Just like you can't say I don't like the government because it's the NPP. You can't say that.
You cannot say that.
No.
You have to deal with the government.
Exactly.
Yes.
Can't say that. So equally, he can't say that. So this commission, that's why there was a lot of criticism. And everybody is watching out the outcome of that. So it's now up to him. And also leadership is about visibility. You have to be coming out to talk to people and explain to them. Press releases and spokesperson is not enough. You have to come out and explain this, especially if you stand on a platform and start vilifying local authorities and things like that. then you have to come back, because that's the effect you see in Banjul. Because those councils are so blown up in their minds that they have to stand against.
Yeah, because they saw the president making.
Exactly. So they are so encouraged. I have instructed all my boys to do that. You don't do that as a leader as such. You know, a leader of everybody. And the other thing about those councillors, it's unfortunate if they behave like that. Rahim Malik has a lot of funding outside the council. Let them work with her, if I were them.
Yeah.
Because then you can...
You mean this Rafaela?
Exactly. You can get from those funding. What the council can generate for you to benefit is
so small.
Compared to what Rafaela can do. So what's the point in trying to oppose her? It doesn't make sense to me anyway. So these are some of the issues that I think they need to look at policy-wise.
Interesting. Dr. Emil Sedat Jobe, a member of the UDP as well. But let's have your honest opinion on how the election, how you think the elections had gone.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to address the observation made by
Mr. Jawo and
Honorable Jawo, the fact that we did not protest before the presidential elections.
Yes.
As to whether those registered
you didn't
were
go to
really
the revising court.
The revised commission. Because, to be frank with you, and I think this was in the psyche of everyone, far away from our mind would have been the idea that people would have organized what we consider to be a great fraud. That's why we did not check up. We weren't supported by the Supreme Court, but immediately after that, because we are conscious of the fact that something wrong happened during the presidential election, you saw that all the 3 other elections that followed, we became very vigilant, and we were able to have results that tally with our aspirations. But I would not want to go into all those details. I'll just say that the present problems we have is that, unfortunately, our president is not really being helped by his surroundings. The president, in fact, I'm quite certain, is not prepared or well prepared for his functions. Because who on earth, as our friend have said, would allow a head of state to compare himself with mayors? If it was a building, the president is on the 7th floor and the mayors are on the 3rd floor. And whatever the mayors achieve, in fact, they are depending also on the central government for certain funding. So whatever they achieve is an achievement of the central government. And credit goes to the president. But they've been able to convince the president to such an extent, I think even at some points he compared himself with mayors.
Mayors, yes.
Unfortunately, if the president is not well advised, and I'm quite certain that the people who are pushing him, who in one way or the other have led to the behavior of the councillors in Banjul, that they should contest the authority of the elected mayors, especially in this region, Banjul, KMC, and Brikama, they will be shooting themselves in the leg. And what I have observed, the mayors have a lot of things playing for them. In Banjul, as you've said, we have the chance of having a mayor who's got an international appointment as deputy mayor globally, and also as Rafaela, which are giving him funding in an intelligent country or an intelligent government. You should do everything to support that mayor. In fact, when she was being elected, she was given support by government. Now that she's got the post, imagine if she had lost the election. We would have lost Rafaela, we would have lost the global, and all the funding that she's able to bring.
I see.
one must be very, very naive or very vicious to say that you want her not to win, or after winning, to tell councillors of your party not to work in harmony with them. One thing I would give as a warning.
Well, we have no evidence that President told them to behave that way. I think when they came to eventually, swear in them, the party official, Sidi Njai, was very conciliatory. He told them that, look, this is not time for politics, this is time for work. So at least we can say that maybe it wasn't the president who told them to behave like that.
Let us, I will just point something out. When the president was going to these elections, he went with the idea, he was not acting as a head of state, he was acting as a party leader. And there was no ambiguity in his pronouncements that he definitely did not want these people there, and he was prepared, he even compared it to death. That he prefers to die than to lose this election.
Of course, that was an election campaign. You know, the politicians have been accused of being able to say anything in campaign.
But whatever.
But what happened next is where we can judge him. Is he really going to still remain partisan, or is he going to now focus on national?
I will conclude by my intervention by saying anyone who wants to help this president must first of all be able to encourage him not to compare himself with the mayors. Secondly, to call all the mayors, including those chairmen who are in his party and the other parties, to meet, for him to guarantee that he will work with them, and to stop this type of little commissions to look for problems. Because if that happens, there will be a revolt. And there is no way that he could be able to stop the mayors from their work and reorganizing, because the rumor is going around that he wants to have a by-election because he's going to prove that these mayors were not working very well and that they were corrupt, and then now that will be completely contrary to the advancement of this country, and it will be an added burden for him. Once again, let the president allow these people to operate. Let him cooperate with them in the interest of the country.
Good. Marr, you said you were going to be a listener here because sound and old minds are at work. But you must have yourself, before coming here, okay, you participated, as your organization name indicated, you participated in many things over the last couple of years since the change of the government. You've been to court to challenge laws and successfully, gain or won unprecedented rulings that have changed so many things. For example, the mayor of Banjul, no other mayor of Banjul will do attestation anymore, thanks to Gambia participates litigation against that. Now, how is your reflection now over the last local government election? Because as other speakers have said, we have seen that this mayoral election have become so much of an issue that even from president right down, everybody was involved. What's your reflection? What do you think should be now the way forward?
Thank you. I mean, first, I just wanted to greet the seniors and veteran governance experts here, Honorable Jawo, Coma, and Professor Jobe. So I did told you that I'm going to be more of a listener, and I think it's now looking more of a classroom for me, learning from great minds. But I mean, also, in my part of me, I would like to deviate a bit to, come up with my own understanding as to why the president also went out to campaign for his candidates for the local government elections. I think there was this competition of party monopoly in the local government elections. Like you said, the president's party, NPP, was new, and this was going to be their first local government elections, and they wanted to go
they were in
all
the
out.
Opposition.
Yes, they were in the opposition. They wanted to go all out to unseat the UDP candidates. So the president thought bringing himself as an individual will be a leverage for his candidates. But what I think, his party like say campaign strategies fail to understand is local government elections, people don't look at a president, people look at the individual, the candidate. And I was even telling someone, as I said, there are 3 UDP candidates, not so about Nyang Dabo, but I know these 3 candidates were going to be re-elected anyways, and that is Landing Sane of Mansakonko, right? Landing has a strong grassroots bond with the people of Mansakonko. He was from us as civil society, and
he was in fact, he's still the president of Galka or local government.
Even if he was to run as an independent candidate against UDP and NPP, Landing was going to win.
He was always going to win.
Because he has already established that bond with the communities and the people. The same thing with Talib Bensouda, right? Bensouda, whether yes, UDP's presence also had helping, but also
he had individual qualities.
During the campaign trail, you see a lot of people saying, with or without UDP, we're going to vote for Talib Bensouda.
I mean, his case was unique, Doctor. I think Marr Nyang was right. He was one who was different from UDP politicians, right? I mean, I met people here in this area is West Coast, where I train at the gym. People said they are going to vote for Talib Bensouda. I said, but how can you vote when you are in West Coast? He said, we cannot vote. I said, you cannot vote because you are in West Coast. So you see how his popularity, they didn't even know that they are in a different region.
Yeah, and I was telling someone else that in every generation, every era, there is a politician whose light always shines. And at the moment, honestly speaking, Talib Bensouda is really illuminating. So I think, to go back to what I was saying, people really admire Talib Bensouda and they see him doing work. And during his time as a mayor, you hardly see a yellow, gray, or green in the work of Talib Bensouda.
Right.
So that was also an advantage that he has. So he was going to be re-elected anyway. The next, I mean,
he even had councillors from different. He started with councillors from different parties who got elected to become MPs from different parties.
And that's also because he contributed a lot.
That was quite interesting.
He contributed a lot in ensuring that these councillors also have their ward offices. So that also brought the councillors closer to the people. So moving towards the next level to parliamentary election was going to be easier for those councillors. So that's also one advantage. I mean, like I said, the Sepras polls really showed that prior that these 3 people were going to win. The same thing for Rahim Malik Low. I think the advantage that he has for Malik Low was also because NPP was not able to present a more competitive candidate.
Oh, really? Even Ibu5 was that not much competitive?
I don't think he was that much competitive in terms of even his campaign strategy. I think he's been seen as a very shy,
I heard this thing. People said the other councillor, Aziz Dabah, perhaps would have been a better candidate.
So even if Ibu is a very, I don't know him personally, but I mean, in terms of campaign,
in terms of eloquence and
your demeanor, your character, the way you speak, the way you also put out your agenda helps. Someone was saying in one of the panels that one of the things that actually killed him was when they asked him on QTV, what have you done for people of Banjul? And he starts talking about hunting or what have you.
No, he said what did Barrow did before he came to the president. And that was where the problem started.
And then also saying
he was trying to say, okay, I should not be judged of what my record was before coming here, because Mr. Barrow had no record before coming to the presidency. That was counterproductive because actually.
So I mean now people are keenly following the campaign heading towards the elections. I might not say 100% or 50% of the voters will vote based on the campaign or manifesto of candidates, but people are keenly following. I will give you the stats why also will say that this local government elections turnout was really, for us, right, impressive compared to
the area council and the parliament.
Other elections. So,
but I think 600 odd voters did not turn up.
But also, if you look at 2018, you have 629,000 who did not turn out to vote in 2018.
So, see, the register, since I have said this, the register since Jammeh's time, I have always doubted our register, because like I said, I took the example of United Kingdom, where I visited and lived there for some time. There are 60 million people there, but only 20-something people actually are eligible to vote. Senegal is 18 million now. There is only, how many people? 5, 6, 8 million votes. How is it that in our country, they tell us that more than half of the population are eligible to vote?
Because I
mean, it doesn't make sense. It's not logical.
I mean, I also said that it is easier for one to have a, voters card in the Gambia than it is for Senegal to have Senegalese themselves to have a voters card in Senegal. So I think that's also the reason why in this electoral reform that we're talking about, and I just learned from the former director of lands that birth certificate does not qualify you to
be a citizen. In fact, I will learn this when Chornobari and others were talking about statelessness.
And it is a requirement for one to be able to issue a voter's card, right?
Birth certificate is a requirement.
Exactly. So I think really, my reflection on the outcome of the vote, of this local government election are two things. I think also people have been put on a very crazy position, and that's from an economic perspective, right? Things are becoming harder, and the director said, the external macroeconomic factors have nothing to do with local government elections. But now, people are seeing the overall predicament that they find themselves in as the problem of the ruling party. And the fact that the president came out to campaign for his people, they rejected the president, not the candidate. And I said it, even Bakari Baji was a very competitive candidate. You understand, totally. But people decided to protest against the NPP.
When people punish the NPP are not back.
And the same thing for 2021 when people decided to protest against the UDP. So, and I also believe that UDP must have done a very good job in changing their campaign strategy, which has become more accommodative in this 2018 local government election, because with 2021, not the party itself, but the militants, right, that we are becoming maybe perhaps a little bit scary to the people, that changed in 2023. So I think also there's a lesson to learn from both the NPP and then also the UDP, that you cannot be comfortable on your seat in this current generation that we are in, because people closely monitor candidates' performance. So they would punish you. And what we in civil society, we talk about not only civil society but even governance. We talk about renewal of social contract between the government and between the elected and then the electorate. So we are now holding people accountable through the ballots, right? When if they do not perform, we unseat them. The same thing for 2017, 2018, 2022 parliamentary elections. Most of those that actually voted against the constitution, and then also for the loan, they
lost the election.
So people are angry, and fortunately for Gambians, we are too obedient that we don't go to the streets and manifest our anger like other countries, especially the francophone countries, will do. For us, our punishment is at the polls, and I really admire and I encourage that. So. But just to say that, it was also a very tight election, because UDP won 20% of the total vote cast, 21% of the total vote cast, NPP only got 21% of the total vote cast, and I think the difference was only 15,000 votes. So, like you said, NPP was coming to beat UDP and monopolize the seat. Unfortunately, UDP candidates had a track record of work that they have done, and I guess that's also should send a message to UDP candidates, because if you look at all the candidates that UDP sponsored, Landing, Youngs, and then also the ones that got elected, Mayo, Mariglo, and Bensouda, I think also because of their track records, right? If the UDP it's their victory, they have to celebrate it. You understand? No one can take that away from them. But let them not to be too comfortable with the outcome of the election, that they become naive for the 2026 elections. There's a success that have been, achieved. Well, let's look back and find out the indicators that lead us towards this success. Why did we fail in 2020?
Good analysis and independent analysis. Because what about NPP? Because if I ask Dr. Jobe, what will become of the NPP? He will just say they will just go ask. But what do you think they should be done?
I think NPP has already started taking remedial actions, because number one, they realized that people were angry because of the NAWEC tariff. Inflation in January, I guess, was about 13%. After the NAWEC tariff increased, right, it went all the way to 17%. You understand? And then anything that we do in our productive sectors, in our business, we need electricity. Cement production, we need electricity. So if people are building and then the electricity tariff is high, the cement, no business wanted to make a loss. You understand? They will always add up to what they are going to, they will always regain what they are losing. So I think people were angry with those tariffs, and it was a very bad moment for the NPP to allow that tariff to be, it has nothing to do with local government election, but people were angry, and the only way they can protest and send a message to the NPP is that we are not happy with what you're doing. So now I think they have also realized that these were some of the things that we did not do well, and they started now, reducing, subsidizing the bag of rice. So, I mean, it was about 1,900. Now
yeah,
we're all down to 1,500.
It's an arrangement now, which brings it to 140. But I think this is temporary. It's not,
I hope it is not
a temporary arrangement.
I hope it's not temporary.
It's not
and the same thing with
all over.
The same thing with the NAWEC, how to call it, tariff as well. People
well, that one is permanent.
Yeah.
I cannot see any.
They will change because
before
what's going to happen? I mean,
2026.
They will change. They will change the tariff.
But NAWEC have said it's either that or they crash.
I mean, NAWEC has crashed a long time ago because NAWEC has taken a lot of loans that they were unable to settle. The government had to step in and then, pay those loans on behalf of NAWEC. There are already reports that also, highlighted the abnormalities at NAWEC that really could have attract more revenues at NAWEC, which is actually not the case. So I think there is an internal NAWEC problem that affects revenue generation, increasing revenue generation and revenue management. So I mean, there's also $25 million US coming from MCC to support the energy sector. So I think really to just hear the list, they have started those remedial actions, and I just hope they continue doing that. And like one of the panelists said, the president cannot allow press release to be always the mode of communication with the people. People can't read. I call that the artificial way of communication. The natural way of communication. People wanted to feel your body language, how you talk, use your own local language.
Critical about the venom, with which those, press releases even come. It is,
and the attitude. And when people see that, they see
the language always come with, very derogatory, and how would I call it? If you want to quote from some of those press releases yourself, you become.
And what it does is it refuels anger.
Yes, anger.
People, because people cannot be angry, and they're also sensing, that
the president's angry.
Language, and it's not the president's word.
Exactly.
So,
no, but when once it is said, his spokesman or said, that's where the president, people are seeing it.
That's where the problem is. The president needs to revisit the people that draft his statement. You understand? They need to censor themselves first before they make those information
out. The presidency should be the biggest passion of morality. If you know what I mean. Even if the president is provoked, the language coming from there should definitely be very civil.
And I think a perfect example of our West African historical president will be Abdoulaye Wade. You understand? Whatever happened, he has a way of responding, maintaining
one thing
confidence.
You can say he was very democratic.
So I think President Barrow needs to really maybe come back and then find someone else who could help him, equip him in responding to this. Let him come out, talk to the people, right? Use any language that you're familiar with, and then people will understand. Because Barrow is not. I mean, I might be wrong, but I think Barrow is not the problem. And someone else said it here. It's the people around Barrow.
That is getting him to the wrong path. I saw he posted on his page that he's congratulating our football team for qualifying to the FIFA World Cup when they are already there. They are there because they have qualified. They meant to say for securing a place in the second round.
So
then somebody come and say we are congratulating them for qualifying. They are in Argentina because they've already qualified. And they meant to say, what they want to say was for reaching the second round. I mean, there should be somebody who should look at these things. And these are too cheap and schoolboy errors. That shouldn't come from president's communication mechanism. I mean, sometimes you cannot understand.
I was given a training 2 days ago to civil society in terms of communication and branding, and I give them this proverb in Wolof: "Bad begin fatal." Right?
Yeah, you cannot.
Yeah, I mean, if you actually say a word, it's like a bullet. Right? If it hits its target, it has already created a wound. You understand? Now, healing that wound takes time. So I think there has to be, areas of verification, mode of verification, and censoring what is to come out of the office of the president. And I really wanted to, call on the president to look inward and see where the problem of communication is, because really, I think if people feel that gap between them and the president that they elected, that the person is not communicating, the person is not there when they needed him the most, right? They become angry, and that reinforces the anger, and as a result, they would disassociate themselves against the president. And now the voter population, the voting dynamic in the country is such that it becomes so unpredictable because there are so many undecided voters that sit around and just monitoring the system, and whatever do not go right, they will just go in and protest against what is not right and then vote for who.
Actually. Finally, before we turn to Senegal, Jawo, once more on this, what is expected? You mentioned the commission of you. I mean, inquiry is going on. You have been very observant. So far, what have you observed?
Well, okay, everybody was complaining about the commission of inquiry. Actually, it's not the setting up of the commission itself, but the timing. That's what people are concerned about. And why local government? When you are talking about not quite large sums of money compared to the other areas, like you have security port there, you have the COVID money there, you have GAM petroleum, you are talking about millions and millions of dollars which have been cannot be explained where they've gone to, and then here you are talking about just few thousands of dollars. And again, one thing is very certain though, if you've been following this commission, you will know that the problem of local government actually emanates from the government itself, particularly the Ministry of Local Government. I mean, the way they've been managing this, it's so horrible. It was so terrible.
But they said the local governments were acting as governments of their own.
No, because the thing is, you have the Local Government Act, but the ministry actually seem to have flouted all the local, the act, what the act has given, the powers the acts have given them, the way they are managing this local government. And you also have this Local Government Service Commission, which is supposed to be independent, but they are completely controlled by the ministry itself.
Really?
They are even housed at the ministry, and the secretary is one of the the directors at the ministry.
And they're supposed to be an independent body.
They are supposed to be independent. That's what the act says, but they are not independent. They have been directed as to what to do. Even you cannot correspond directly with them. You have to pass through the permanent secretary. So this is all coming out on
maybe Mr. Coma can help us there.
This is all coming out. From the commission. It shows you that definitely it is not, the outcome is not going to be as the government had expected.
And there have been movements. CEOs have been moved. I mean, it's been said in the commission.
And the very fact that even all the administrators and even the financial administrators in the commissions are government officials. So you cannot, the mayors don't even sign checks or something. They are not responsible for the financial aspect of their commissions. So councils, I cannot see how they can be held liable for any financial malpractice there. You've seen at KMC what has happened in the case of Senator Martin Sonko. That's the funniest part of it. Somebody who has been accused of fraud, maladministration, and the government has been, shielding her, protecting her, and then going to the extent even, fighting to get her reinstated. Despite all even they sent a commission, not a commission, but a panel of experts to go and investigate the place. They investigated, they sent a report, and the report actually implicated her more. And yet the government refused to take any action on her, but decided to reinstate her. So these are all things showing that definitely you cannot blame the mayors or the chairpersons of what has happened. Whatever malpractices there have been found at the councils, definitely. So it's going to be a very, very interesting report. Yeah,
Mr. Coma, you're an expert in the local governance and decentralization. How did you see the commission is, we are yet to see what's happening. But like Jawo said, this is audit. The commission, we were told, came because of the recommendations of the auditor. Not the auditor did not recommend, but because of the adverse findings of the auditor general.
I think he brought in two issues that are very important. One, the timing. That's the issue at the time. The timing was something else. And the other issue is there are greater problems of corruption than what is happening at the local government or local authority level. What is happening to those? So if you compare those, why give this one the priority? I think that's the issue. And I think governments will realize that there is a lot of information going out so easily now, and people get more conscious of what is going on. So they can't fool anybody, and they need to develop a better communication strategy, as he is saying. I think that's one of the main problems. People see them as being aloof and condescending to whatever they tell them, and this they have to accept. I don't know whether it's an internal structural problem or whatever it is. But the leadership, one of the qualities of leadership is selecting the best people to work for you. You don't have to have the ideas. You don't have to be the most educated, but you have to have the right people, the right team to be able to deliver on your policies.
And I think the problem with President Barrow is, advisors. He hasn't taken the right advisors. Advisors should be somebody, a very seasoned person who knows the particular subject that he or she is supposed to advise you on. You don't just pick somebody from the street or from your party and call them advisors. That is his problem. He needs to definitely revisit that aspect.
Okay.
Yes, you can complete it.
Yeah, because as he is saying with advice, I think another problem that he has, again, perspectives, perceptions are important. It's about the question of loyalty. As they say, Nyaman Taranka. That's not the issue. Some critics are even better than your advice.
Yes.
And you listen to them. And you
Criticism
learn
helps a
from
lot.
exactly. So they see he takes loyalty at a level that you sacrifice competence. I think that is what is happening. Now, if you come to the local government commission, everybody's looking at anticipating the outcome of that commission. And even there are rumors coming out what would happen in the end. So I think he has to be very, very careful. Now, generally, I think his problem is the overall policy environment of the government. He is saying that they are coming with this piecemeal thing of bringing down the cost of rice. That's not the point. You need a serious structural adjustment program for this country. Look at the policies and then adjust them properly. We had those. It happens to every country, and it's unfortunate for him. He came at the time when there are so many global problems. But we have to be able to tackle them in a more creative manner than they are doing. It doesn't have to be personalized. It's not people are against him, not people don't like him. It's the way he is conducting business. It can't be as usual. Jawo had a problem. He came with structural, they are very bitter. And the best time to do it is now. And it takes time before they have their effects. So they have to sit down and do that properly. Think of what structural adjustment they should take care of. Unfortunately, the bilateral or multilateral agencies are not helping. Because they are encouraging government to spend more, they are giving the impression that the government is doing well, but in reality they are not. And they should look at that. In fact, my word there is the multilateral agencies like IMF should stop using their staff to come and assess. Let them get an external consultant. It happens in other countries. Get an external consultant to come and assess our economy. They will have a better picture. Because sometimes you go there as a consultant, you get so used to the people, you don't get the right information. So our situation is very dear. And Barrow really has to buckle up. It's unfortunate. He has to really buckle up. Let him look advices outside the circle that you don't have to get sycophants around you. Things are good.
I'll jump you, Mr. Jobe, and come to Marr to conclude on his vision on the commission. And I come to you, and then we go to Senegal straight. What are your decisions on the commission? You made a comment or article about it, is it? What do you see? How do you see it? I mean, Sapra said the timing. I mean, the motive maybe, rather the objective maybe improper, but the timing.
I mean, even the motive is actually not proper from my own perspective. I think there should not have been, a commission in the first place because, number one, you cannot accuse the auditors of, findings as just an opinion. And then if you understand audit work, opinions are based on facts, right? That the auditors were able to gather evidence and then arrive to that particular opinion. So you cannot accuse the Auditor General's report on local government as just a mere opinion and then also use the same audit opinion, the lead counsel using the same audit opinion, inviting the director of audit for local government and ask them based on that particular opinion. So I think it's a waste of resources in the first place.
Oh, you mean but that's not the commission. That's the you mean the government has said, auditors report are just mere opinions.
That's what I'm saying.
So why do you use a mere opinion to...
Exactly. That's what I'm actually talking about, right? So I think, one of the strongest accountability oversight institutions in this country is that of the National Audit Office. Really understand? And I told auditors, look, you should use this as a monitoring evaluation for your work. If the executive is coming to you this way, they know that you are doing a very good job. And I also really believe that it's just political because honestly speaking, no corruption should be really overlooked, be minor or systematic or grand, right? Any corruption at any level should be investigated. So there's already a lead. There's already an evidence, which is the Auditor General's report. And there are existing laws that says that where there are advice findings in the Auditor General's report, who should take it up? They should give the report to the Inspector General of Police to investigate. So it seems like the government is undermining the power and the intelligence of the police to give it to politicians, to investigate politicians. So I think really that was not a very good call. I don't know who advised the president on setting up that commission. It should not have been the case. And then also to go back, right? People are going to see this as a selective corruption investigation. And I said the same thing in my comment, because there are major corruption allegations that have been, I mean, one of the panelists have already alluded to that, right? Those are systematic, and it has more adverse effects on the economy and the institution, both monetary and then also institutional corruption that we see that, you know, has compromised the productivity, the democratic strength of those institutions, and nothing actually really happened. So what we have been seeing is we have been accommodating. We have a government that has been accommodating and promoting corrupt acts, and I will justify why. If someone else is guilty of corruption, the right thing to do is to investigate and sanction the person if the person is found guilty. But you cannot be redeploying someone else that is really guilty of corruption. That basically means that, look, go and do whatever you want. We are here to protect you. And that's the reason why we keep seeing corruption recycling itself every now and then at a more systematic way, at a more diversified way compared to before when it was really centralized. And look, you know, the ones that have been standing against corruption are actually fished out from these institutions. And I will give an example. Social Security, when Marr Nyang was actually put in there, and then he was coming with stringent measures to ensure that, you know, all of the maladministration and misuse of pensioners' money put to an end. Social Security staff were not happy to that. You understand? And they started attacking Marr Nyang. What did they do? There was an investigation, and they realized that Marr Nyang was actually doing right. So you were really putting out someone else who is putting measures to ensure they protect the wealth of the country against people who really wanted to misuse those money. So I think we have a governance of policing, and that's what the Barrow government needs to stop. And one of the parties said that sometimes you have to come up with measures that are not going to be in the interest of the people. So we need to stop that governance of policing. We human beings, we are never satisfied. If you please me today, I expect you to please me every now and then, whether I do good or I do right. And that's why we also see lawlessness in our, how to call it, in our traffic, because when I do, when I overtake or do whatever I have to do, the police will just will compromise, and then it will continue. So that's what needs to change.
Good. I think I wanted to really confine you to Senegal now, but you want to have a little time before we move.
Just a very brief thing. I appreciate all the very positive ideas and recommendations from Barrow, but I'm a bit worried. Because if we say now that Barrow needs to have advisors who will really tell him what to do, I think it's too late on time. Because
of course you would say it's Barrow himself who needs to be changed, not the advisor.
Not really that, but how can he change? He is in a trap. Who will today tell Barrow that increasing the prices at Nawak and also the bridge in Basse and all his attitude towards the opposition parties and these commissions should change radically? How can he do it? From where is he going to start? And it's just to say that as long as the president doesn't want to take a radical decision to show that he has been able to understand that all this criticism that is against his government and the way that it was running itself, and with all the corruption going on, that he wants to make a new start. In order to do that, despite the fact that he has sent him on retirement, I've never met him, but I've listened to this man where he explained that the former Auditor General, what's his name again? Karamba. He should create a temporary division, call back Karamba, in order to supervise the implementation of recuperating all that has gone wrong with COVID within the government and so on, and to have in this special recovery department an inspector of police or even at the level of a commissioner of police on investigation and give them the authority to be able to press on charges and apply them directly with the Ministry of Justice without having the presidency to intervene. If the president can do that, he will start a fresh page of reliability and trust, and people will know that he's not hiding behind anything. He's not taking anything as being personal opinion, but he wants to go according to the rules and regulations of this country. And then after that, he could point fingers at any commission or any group to say that he would like to investigate them, but he would have absolved himself of this great criticism of not giving credibility to the auditor's report and being completely indifferent to it.
Good. Let's don't turn straight to Senegal. We now very quickly. Recently, let's update one another on Senegal. On Thursday, the opposition leader, one of the opposition leaders, the one for whose party or his group is called PASDEF, Ousmane Sonko, also the mayor of Ziguinchor, was sentenced to 2 years for, I found it difficult to digest, corrupting youths instead of rape, from which he was, I mean, he's accused. All the media circus around the court was around this rape thing between him and Ajisar, I think. We've now been told that he is going to jail for 2 years for corrupting the youths. Soon after that, a more serious note, protests and demonstrations, and 10 people were officially confirmed to have died. So, Jawo, does this have anything to do with the fact that President Macky Sall is still reticent or reluctant to say whether he will run, or is this all part of his plans? I mean, to use the law to elongate his regime, or this is just, as Ousmane Sonko said, a measure to eliminate him from the presidential race?
I think there are a lot of factors involved here. I mean, one of the factors, of course, is the failure of Macky Sall. You know, it's about 7 months to go to the next presidential election.
February.
And okay, and up to this time, he has not told the people whether he is going to seek for a third term or not.
But what did his actions say?
Well, whatever his actions are, he has not spoken about it. He has not. I still believe, that.
You are the only optimistic.
Yeah, I still believe that Macky is not going to seek for a third mandate. I honestly, I believe in that.
What makes you believe?
Yeah, of course, probably he's got a strategy for his coalition. Because the very moment he announced that he's not going to, then there is going to be chaos within his coalition. Because there are different parties composed of the coalition. Probably all the other parties would want to be the next, presidential candidate for the coalition, and that is going to be chaotic. So probably that's what he's buying time for. But I think it's too long now. I think he should come out plain and tell the people what his intentions are. And I hope, because he has just started this dialogue thing, I think it's a week thing, or it's going to be a week or so thereabout. I think by the end of it, he's going to come out clean. That's what I think. And I'm still believing that Macky is definitely not going to seek a third mandate. Because if that happens, that's going to be trouble in Senegal. And when there is trouble in Senegal, Gambia is in trouble. Because we cannot accommodate the Senegal. The borders are just free. Everybody is going to rush in here. We cannot definitely accommodate. That is, Gambia should, I thought President Barrow should definitely try and see how best he can be able to get in there, advise his brother, and see how best they can stop this trouble that is brewing in Senegal. It's not for the interest of the Gambia.
You have not addressed the purported rape trial of President of what? PASDEF.
Yeah. Well, I probably think that Sonko is pushing too hard himself. You cannot, as an individual. Okay, he's got his party, PASDEF, behind him and other things, and they've also got a coalition of other parties like Jawo and other things. Yeah. But the thing is, sometimes you don't push that hard, like what he did when he was coming from Ziguinchor, with that caravan. You don't go out in the countryside with a large group of people going after you. That's trouble. I mean, he didn't seek for me to do that, and he just took off from there with the sentiments and everything else, and then followed by those large numbers of youths. That is, I mean, that's chaos. That is chaotic. He should not have been. Whoever advised him, he should definitely have avoided those kind of things. Okay. But for the trial, as we said, people expected, I mean, the trial was going to be based on the rape charges, but I mean, then suddenly we heard that he was free from the rape charges and the death threats that he was charged with, and then he was convicted for corrupting the youths. And I think in this case, it's a kind of inciting the youths to come out and challenge the government. That is what they meant by corrupting the youths. So I mean, of course, incitement is a crime. But whether he was charged for that, I mean, at the beginning, I'm not sure about it. So why they decided to change whatever the rape charges and other things to incitement and other things, well, that's it. I don't know. But honestly, I think both sides were not somehow faulty on the way. I mean, there should have been some dialogue.
Given a precedent, President Macky Sall is known to have locked up his political opponents by eliminating them. Karim Wade, whom he accused of corruption, and Khalifa Sall, who was mayor by Dakar and was also sent to prison. It's been perceived that he eliminates his opponents using the criminal justice system. So, aren't the people of PASDEF really right to think that this is a measure to eliminate?
It has happened, as you said, you have Karim Wade, you have Khalifa Sall, all who are potential opponents of the president, and they got into trouble one reason or the other. But you wouldn't say that, the problem that Karim got into were created by Macky or anybody else. It was a crime. I mean, he was alleged to have committed, and it went to court, and the court actually found him guilty. The same thing with Khalifa Sall. It's unfortunate probably that they were perceived, I mean, opponents of Macky Sall, and they were involved in that. But because you are an opponent of the government, does it mean that when you are involved in any crime, the crime should not go to court, and then whatever the courts decide would become binding. But I think the
case of Soko, he was not corrupt. He was not into any corruption. They said
no, well, it's not corruption. But whatever the case, he was accused of something, and I mean,
allegedly, the lady was used.
Well, it's all possible. It's all possible. Of course, it's politics. I mean.
So what about what is happening? What is the way forward right now? Because after the sentencing, the man is still at his house.
I think
nobody has picked him to send him to Robos, the prison. But then people are dying in the streets. I mean,
it's an unfortunate situation. I think the Senegalese authorities, including Macky Sall himself, should try and see how best they can be able to address this issue. And one of the reasons, one of the way to do that probably is for Macky to come out clean and tell the people of Senegal that he's not going to seek for a third term. I think that will simmer the tensions down. If that happens, because that is at least one of the causes of the tension. If he comes out today and then says that no, I'm going to seek for a third term, I think it will definitely calm things down, and I urge Macky to do that. Definitely, it's high time that he did it.
United Nations, the ECOWAS, African Union.
Well, of course, everybody should be concerned, particularly the Gambia. We should be concerned about what happens in Senegal, because I mean, the consequences we cannot handle. Yeah,
Mr. Coma.
Yes.
What's your take on events in Senegal?
Well, I would like to look at it from the Gambian point of view in terms of experience and how institutions are weaponized. We've had our case for the past 22 years, and normally I always say that dictators are never born; they are bred, and nurtured. And there is a very common basis of how they do it. One, changing the laws to favor them. Trying to muffle or intimidate the media, and trying to eliminate their opponents, and the list goes on. And there is no order the way they do it, but dictators all over the world, from Europe to Latin America, that's what they do. So I would like to observe it from that point of view. Is that happening in Senegal? Because we've had the same things here.
Yes.
Where, for example, the electoral laws were changed.
Absolutely.
The threshold for deposits went high. And I think they are also complaining about this parrainage.
Yes, parrainage. That is
where
what I would call pre-qualification.
Exactly. It goes up again. Then it came to weaponizing institutions, the justice system, that's what people are saying.
Yes.
Whether it's happening or not, I can't comment specifically on that. But what I can comment is generally, they should watch out for how dictatorships are being bred. We've had our experience, and they should learn.
But Senegal is reputed to be, a very solid democratic country.
You see, the point is,
what is happening is definitely not helping the reputation.
What the unfortunate thing is, in Africa generally, we tend to have leaders who want to be very strong and to have very weak institutions. Senegal was reputable to have very good leaders and very good institutions. And there is no guarantee, there is no insurance of getting a good leader. You can vote somebody out, bring another, he'll be worse. So it's unfortunate for Africa. This is how we are. Maybe it's a learning curve for us. And Senegal should really watch out for that. And the chaos there should really worry us, because somebody close to you, if they sneeze, you can catch cold. So that's why, as he said, if I were Mr. Barrow, I would find a way of intervening somehow, either at a personal level, at an two-state level, or even at the ECOWAS level, because it's not good for us in terms of security, even politically, because these things can be a bit contagious sometimes.
I mean, the Gambia government,
if I were, I would take it very seriously. I would take the normal long silence and inactivity. Anybody advising him on that is a mistake.
He should take initiative
exactly, whatever it is, and then try to see whether you can do something about it.
Doctor, you stayed in Senegal and knows a lot about it.
Yes.
What is happening now?
I am pleased to share the observations that were made by
Jawo and Coma
friends, yes. But I want to say one thing. I am very much surprised that until now, we've not heard of anything that the Gambian government or Barrow individually is doing or for Gambia's voice to be heard in this situation. We should not forget that when we had the problem with President Jammeh, that it was Senegal that took the initiative to go to the Security Council, to also have the approbation of the African Union and also the European Union, so that troops could come here and make sure that the will of the Gambian people were respected. Taking into account the present situation of the Gambia after 5 or 6 years of a new government, we still have a need of having ECOMIG in this country, which is very negative in the assessment of the country for stability and trade. And secondly, the fact that the president depends a lot on security on Senegal, and we know what is happening in the Fournies. We've seen also without the instruction, and I want to make this very clear, the type of things that are happening in the Fournies, of Gambians being arrested and taken to Senegal or to Casamance and so on, these are local decisions by gendarmes who feel that they're in a conquered territory. And we have
Let me take you back there. You said these allegations, well, of course, this is not allegations. The police confirmed there were mass arrest of Gambians being taken to Senegal, and maybe the usage of drones. You said this could be decisions taken unilaterally by the gendarmes, security people there.
These are decisions taken by local gendarmes who believe that the Gambia is a conquered territory and that the Gambia's president depends on Senegal for its security, and he will not comment. But I'm saying that the government of Senegal itself may just learn about these things in a report later on, that we've got some Gambians, we've taken them there. But the initiative of arresting a Gambian, having him chained, taken to Ziguinchor or to Tambacounda or to Dakar is definitely not taken by a responsible government. So definitely Senegal is in. Why is it happening? Why are we not hearing a robust protest from the Gambia government? and telling them not to do it again, that if you arrest Gambians and they are wrong, you should hand them over to us.
Funny, the defense minister came to parliament, spoke very strongly about the protection of the sovereignty. When he was quoted in the media, he came back to say, we never said this.
He never said it. But
so I would not be surprised when there is no strong messages from the government about this issue.
Good. Once we've accepted that that is being done, I am not surprised that the president, even for local affairs here, he doesn't want to come out and speak, as you have mentioned, that they have all these press releases for us, that until now we have not heard what the president has said. And he knows that if tomorrow something happens in Senegal, automatically it will reflect on us. What is going to be the relationship of the new...
So what do you expect him to do?
No, that's what I'm coming to. Okay? What would happen to his security? What would happen to the Senegalese component of ECOMIG? And so on. So therefore, I feel it is a necessity for the Gambians to say clearly what has happened. And here I would like to perhaps correct or add to what my colleagues have said. You see, President Macky Sall is standing behind the idea that if he announces his participation in the forthcoming elections, he will create chaos around him. But in fact, I can guarantee that President Macky Sall wants to stand for the next election.
What I told you.
And President Macky Sall knows that even if Karim Wade comes back and even if Khalifa Saleh comes back, he has broken their ribs and they can never be threats. When he got rid of them, they were threats. If he went to the elections with them, he would have to go for a second round. Now, all of a sudden, a gentleman who was a very senior official in the fiscality of Senegal, in the taxing system, started getting interested in creating a syndicate of those people who are in charge of taxes. And he started making political pronouncements. We do not have an equivalent of that. I'm just merely hearing about it now in the Gambia. But in Senegal and in the French system, you can be a professor of university, and you can be in the opposition, and you can say anything. And no one can do anything to you. But in the British system, it's very difficult. You can be a professor, you can be an opposition, you can be in opposition, but it has to be discreet. So they, in fact, the president was told that this man is a danger.
That's Usman.
And Usman, that the best way, let us nip him in the bud. He got rid of him. Because he got rid of him, the man stood for elections. He became a mayor. And then he stood again. He became third. And the way that things are going, it is certain that if Macky Sall went to elections with Usman Sonko, Usman will win the first round. He will definitely win the first round. And because of this, and Macky has been a president, unfortunately, he's been very nice with us when we were in exile. I would say, I don't even want to go into detail. But even his security service saw to it that we were not harassed and we were protected. I knew that in Wakam there were quite a few security officers, and they used to tell us, let us know. So that nothing could happen to us, or that kidnappings and so on. So he did very well for the Gambians when
exiles,
they were
during Gambia's time.
And when there was turmoil,
doesn't that mean that he was always opposed to Gambians?
when there were turmoils in Banjul, he also took care of all these people. I'll just conclude and say, despite that, he really wanted to be a candidate. And even this recent negotiation was to see with those people who came. And strangely enough, all these are old politicians. Mustafa Nyang and all these others. They wanted, his strategy now is to at least get the moral support of these people to declare his candidacy, or his last resort, and this may come as a big blow, but from what I heard from people who talk to me, what Macky is really trying to look for at the end of this dialogue is for them to allow him to postpone the presidential elections for 2 years. Now, if he postpones it for 2 years, this will coincide with the sentence that has been passed on Sonko. Whether Sonko will then be allowed to stand is another thing, but Macky wouldn't like to live in 2024 just like that, because he's brought in all this thing and gas, and he cannot imagine how these could go into the hands of somebody else. And his total entourage has so much seeped in it, including his brothers-in-laws, and so on.
So
and
he's
so forth,
scared of leaving.
that he is protecting them. It's like what Tombalbai,
Tombalbai of Chad.
No, not Tombalbai, of Ayadema told me in Sir, I want to leave, but they're telling me you are going nowhere, because if you go, what's going to happen to us? And that is what is holding Macky there. Macky is also a prisoner.
So you're suggesting that if a president elongates his power, eventually he becomes the tool of interest groups, instead of him becoming the one in charge. Interest groups are in charge of him.
To be very frank with you, I mean, that is the same thing, and let me not even just bully him alone. Let us say today, if our man wants to stand as a very strong president of the Gambia, he knows what is happening. He's got the audit report. He knows what happened in the petroleum. He knows what other people are doing. If he wants to stand straight, around him will be like a castle of cards. All will fall apart and he will be alone. Can he be able to take that courage? This is our problem. This is the problem of a lot of heads of state in Africa. And unfortunately for Senegal, and unfortunately we're not doing anything about it. And if we do not do anything about it, if our voice is not heard, we will just be people who have to bear the consequences of what is going on in Senegal, and it's not good for Senegal or the Gambia. And I conclude by saying, Senegal and Gambia, in all my interventions, have always been a sample for Africa. We cannot talk of the unity of Africa without being able to harmonize the relationship between Senegal and the Gambia. And if we fail, it's better for all African countries just to take their representatives in the African Union, who could work for them in their own ministries, but us realize that it cannot work. And I'm therefore very sorry that Senegal, through Barrow should be able to explain to Senegal the goodwill of the Gambia should be maintained towards Senegal, and what the Senegalese soldiers are doing or gendarmes are doing in Fonyi, they are really antagonizing the Gambians. This has never happened under Abdou Diouf, Senghor, or what? Gambians are now, they feel that they're worth nothing before Senegalese gendarmes, and I told you this is not coming from the central government. But the general mentality of Senegalese, the ordinary Senegalese, who believes that now Gambia is a conquered territory, all the big contracts are given to Senegalese. We have been naive enough to even impose so many taxes to the only viable industry that we had. And today we are not ashamed that all the fruit juices, all the drinks that we're having in the Gambia are coming from Senegal. When we had a recently modernized Jul brew in the Gambia, which was appreciated all over the world, but now we have to depend on Senegal. And I conclude by saying, for all those of you who want the president to stand strong, to look for ways and means of bringing back the dependency on electricity. Now that we've got petrol, why do we allow Senegal to go so fast and we've done nothing? We could also have our own generators here and not be dependent. It was a very big mistake to connect our grid to Senegal, and that Senegal is now bullying us that we have to pay, and if we do not pay, at any time they could put us in trouble.
Dr. Sedat Jobe, finally, you have the last word. Because you said you'll be a listener. You have been listening intently. You have the final word before we go. What do you make of this crisis in Senegal? Because now it's a crisis.
Yeah, I mean, I call it a manipulative democracy that Macky Sall have actually initiated in Senegal. Senegal has become, or it has been a sample of democracy, working democracy in Africa. Macky Sall found that democratic institutions very strong, and then also wanted to, strengthen his grip on the governance of Senegal, and he started using those institutions to manipulate democracy. I mean, the reason why I call it manipulative democracy is because it seems as if he has taken due democratic process to sanction an opposition at a very wrong time. So for him, he will come and say the states are doing the work, and you hardly see Macky Sall coming out to talk about it. Do you understand? So always, I mean, we did talk about Khalifa Sallah and Karim Wade, all of the key oppositions of Macky Sall, they're eliminated. So I think Macky Sall is building a firewall of accountability post his office. And what does that mean is his hands, I guess, are dirty. Leaving office, there's going to be accountability. And then his essentials, right? In every governance, there's what we call you call them the interest groups. Those essentials are always protective of their security, right? These are the essentials that makes and breaks leaders. And it's the same thing with our president, Jawo, when he was leaving. He had to take those essentials along because they also have to protect their security. So I guess Macky Sall, and I really want to side with Jawo, Honorable Jawo, that Macky Sall do not have interest to run for a Tata. And I said it somewhere else.
Why you people
because I said it somewhere else.
I don't know where your optimism.
Macky Sall is not a fool. He has already screened the the feeling of the people towards him, and he's going to be rejected. People don't want Macky Sall to run for a Tata. And I even told some Senegalese meeting them around the world that you should not even think about or even talk about Macky Sall running for a Tata. The more you talk about it, the more Macky Sall feel privileged that he should run for a Tata. I think I'm not a legal luminary, but I think it's illegal in the first place for him to run for a Tata.
What Macky Sall legislated, no single party should go back for two terms.
I mean, that's already clear. So why do we have to question whether Macky Sall should run for a Tata or not when the constitution is clear? So I think Macky Sall is trying to run away from accountability. And Sonko, assuming that leadership role, Macky Sall is going to be sanctioned. His brother that has been guilty of corruption, but I guess acquitted by the court, I guess fortunately for him, on this oil corruption scandal, and all the others were not acquitted. And I think really the judiciary of the Senegalese obviously has been compromised. Democracy itself has been compromised. I give you one example. So we're in this country, we're in Zambia, and then there's a spectrum, and they said for those that think your government is an autocratic government, stand on the left-hand side. If you think the governance in your country is a democracy, you stand on the far right. If you think yours is really moving towards autocracy, you stand in the middle. And I saw Senegalese moving towards the middle, and us Gambians moving towards the right. And I was like, this is like a swap of funds. Gambia used to be on the far left, now on the far right. Senegal is now in the middle, moving towards autocracy. And thanks to them, and after that I said, thanks to Macky Sall's government, that Senegalese democracy is being compromised. So number one, Sonko alleged of rape. He's been accused of rape and death threats. Corrupting the youth, I don't really know what that means, but I think they have done their work very well. And look at the timing of this national dialogue. They know that this,
the verdict is coming.
The verdict was coming. So to bear the bad news was to organize this national dialogue. The youth
that
are not foolish. And I just wanted to conclude, I know we don't have time, by saying that young people must not allow to be used as a tool, right, to kill, to take lives, to protect politicians, be Usman Sonko or Macky Sall. Clear example, was it 2009 or 2010, Cote d'Ivoire? What happened with Alassane Ouattara and Gbagbo? Over 2,000 people died fighting for Alassane Ouattara. What has he done later on? He disappointed the people who are actually fought for him.
Elongated his stay.
And then those 2,000 people, they are buried for nothing. So
reconcile with,
Exactly. I saw that. I was very angry seeing him, calling Gbagbo himself a brother, while those 2,000 people are buried. So Senegalese also, be Macky Sall or Sonko, they must not allow to take their innocent life and then protect those people. And lastly, I think what the late Honorable VP Badara Jobe did say, and he questioned our diplomacy, the Gambia's diplomacy, foreign policy, what do we sell outside? And this is a very crucial moment for Gambia to make its presence felt in Senegal, that this is what we are doing. And like I keep saying, we have a reactive system of governance. We wait until the problem has already been cooked and we start reacting to it. Right now, the economy, if economic luminaries do their research, they will realize that there is, impact of the economy because of the current crisis in Senegal. Businesses are at stake. The businesses that used to transport goods to Senegal can no more go to Senegal because of the current status quo in Senegal. The same thing for goods that are supposed to be transported to Gambia. They can't come because of the current status quo in Senegal. So I think it is that, I will not even say Barrow, but Tangara, right? Tangara needs to step up, advise President Barrow and start making the Gambia, not to actually portray that we are here, but to play a very good diplomatic role. Because like they said, if Senegal sneezes, we catch cold, and we've already catching cold, we're feeling it. So we need to step up because the problems, the indicators are already there, out there, that if this continues, it's going to affect our governance, our security, our economy. So we need to step up.
So President Adama Barrow, if you are watching us, which you always do something about the Senegalese crisis, and so that the problem can be solved. Marr Nyang, the Chief Executive Director of Gambia Participates, Dr. Sedat Jobe, diplomat and former Foreign Minister, international civil servant, retired, and then we have Lamin Coma, an expert in local government decentralization and former director of lands, a consultant now. Demba Jawo, veteran journalist and former minister. Thank you all for your good contributions to the brunch this week. I'm Lamin Coma. We'll be back next week. Until then, have a great weekend.
Thank you. That's the end. Wow. Just to tell that Tangara will never.
I hope you understand now.
Yes.
This is your withholding tax certificate.
Thank you.
Sorry, sir. Give me a few minutes. Let me finish with her.
I am not here to sit. I received an alert from my bank. It's like you made a mistake. The amount transferred to my account is different from the amount on the invoice I issued to you.
No, there is no mistake. We deducted 10% as withholding tax.
Withholding what? In fact, what is withholding tax?
As he just told me, withholding tax on contract payments is a deduction from payment made to contractors carrying out work, supply of labor or materials, and or provision of technical or consultancy services. 10% is withholds for Gambian residents and 15% for non-Gambian residents. The contractees remits the amount withheld to the nearest GRA tax office in the month of deduction or on or before the 15th of the following month.
What's my interest?
You will be issued a certificate which you should take to GRA when you go to pay your quarterly and annual tax.
What
what happens to the 10% deducted from my invoice?
That 10% will be less from your tax liability.
So it means the 10% is an advance payment of my tax liability. And I only pay the difference of my tax due for my quarterly and annual payment.
Correct, sir.
Buba, you should have told me this. We all know for any meaningful development to take place in a country, we must pay our taxes.
And on time.
This information is from the Gambia Revenue Authority. For more detailed information about your withholding tax obligation, please visit any of the nearest GRA offices. The Gambia Revenue Authority, collecting revenue for national development.
We live in a day and age where technology is creating a world without borders, filled with unlimited potential to improve the lives of the people around us. Innovarex Global Health ushers in a new way of leveling the playing field with increased access to quality healthcare services delivered at your doorstep. Our qualified professionals are equipped with state-of-the-art point-of-care testing technology to conduct tests such as kidney function, liver function, electrolyte tests, body composition, hemoglobin, A1C, and many more services with the highest efficiency in delivering results. The addition to our flagship, Wellness on Wheels, more fondly known as WOW Delivery Service, brings the entire clinical experience full circle. IGH has remained committed to creating the future of healthcare delivery. Gone are the days of sending loved ones outside the country for basic medical services. Innovarex Global Health offers a new peace of mind and takes pride in delivering the quality of care we all deserve.
Islamic microfinance is becoming an increasingly popular mechanism for poverty alleviation, especially for developing countries around the world. This microfinance service adheres to the principles of Islam as a form of social responsibility. Yona Islamic Microfinance is the Islamic microfinance of choice in the Gambia, trustworthy and reliable. At Yona Islamic Microfinance, we provide savings products, current accounts, financing products in conformity with Islam. In addition, Yona Islamic Microfinance also offers local and international remittances, takaful fund, management of zakat, management of awqaf, trading and investment, and building of strategic partnerships to bring financial services to the doorstep of the poor with donor projects, madrasas, youth organizations, women groups, and farmer organizations. Make a choice with Yona Islamic Microfinance today. For more information on Yona Islamic Microfinance, call 377-2151 or 9832-151 or visit Yona head office at Tipa Garage, Bakote, or visit any Yona branch located countrywide near you.